Looking for something? The voice came from behind her, smooth but sharp enough to slice through the silence. Elena's breath caught. She froze halfway between crouching and standing, one hand inside the open drawer. The dim light of the office cast her shadow long and guilty across the polished floor. She turned slowly, carefully, like prey not wanting to startle the hunter. A man stood by the doorway, tall, calm, a quiet storm wearing a charcoal suit. His sleeves were rolled, his hands empty, but his presence carried weight. Her mind raced. Fitz DeMico, the man her editor called untouchable. I was told this was the archive room, she said, steady voice, neutral smile. That's a new name for my private office. He walked toward her, unhurried, like a man who'd already calculated the outcome. She could feel her pulse in her throat. Well, she said, closing the drawer gently, now I know, do you? He stopped in front of the desk. What were you looking for? An invoice, she lied. Someone told me. He raised a hand, cutting her off without a word. The gesture was quiet authority. He studied her face, then her hands, then the small black recorder tucked beneath a file. His gaze returned to her eyes. You're not good at lying, Elena inhaled. You're not very polite. That earned the faintest flicker of amusement. He picked up the recorder, pressed play. Static. Silence. He looked at her again. Smart. You erased it. She forced a shrug. Habit. He leaned closer, not enough to invade, just enough to test her nerve. And what kind of woman develops that habit? The kind who likes to survive, he smiled, not warmly. Good answer. For a heartbeat, neither moved. The air between them carried the tension of two people who understood games and refused to lose. Finally, he stepped back. You'll report to me tomorrow morning? She blinked. Excuse me? You're new. I don't fire people until I know why they make mistakes. I don't work for you. He was already walking toward the door. You do now. She wanted to argue, but something in his tone, calm, absolute, told her there was no point. When the door closed, she exhaled. Her hands were trembling, but her mind was clear. She wasn't caught. Not yet. But Fitz DeMico had noticed her, and that was worse. The next morning, he acted like nothing happened. Coffee, he said, not looking up from the stack of ledgers spread across his desk. Elena hesitated by the door. I'm not your assistant. Good. I prefer strong coffee. She bit back a retort and placed the cup on his table. He finally looked up, eyes scanning her like a fingerprint. You didn't run, he said. Should I have? Most people do when they get caught. I'm not most people. I noticed. His gaze dropped briefly to the notebook in her hand. Taking notes? Always. He nodded once, approvingly. Then write this down. Loyalty matters more than honesty. Convenient philosophy. It's the only one that keeps people alive. Elena studied him for a second, searching for the man behind the name, the rumored crime lord who built an empire out of silence. He didn't fit the stories. He was too calm, too deliberate. Later, during a meeting, she watched how people spoke around him. No one interrupted him. No one questioned him. Even silence bent toward him like gravity. When the meeting ended, he stopped beside her chair. You listened more than you spoke. Why? I learn more that way. And what did you learn? That you don't trust anyone. He gave a faint smile, one corner of his mouth tilting upward. Trust is expensive, so is paranoia. His smile deepened, briefly. Careful. That almost sounded like courage. That night, as she wrote her notes, she caught herself replaying his tone, how it was quiet, never cruel. He didn't raise his voice, but somehow it filled the room. For a man with power, he didn't need noise. He was the noise. Days blurred into a rhythm of observation and testing. Every morning, Fitz gave her a new task: background reports, shipment audits, client lists, the kind of access that could expose everything if she wanted it to. He was daring her. Once, she asked, "You really trust me with this?" He didn't look up from the documents. "No, but I want to see what you do with it." He always said things that felt like traps, but she couldn't help answering them. "Maybe I'll surprise you." "You already do." The words landed heavier than he meant. She saw it in the way he looked away too quickly. That evening, they met again in his office. The rain hit the glass walls, soft and constant. Fitz stood by the window, sleeves rolled, reading something she couldn't see. You ever regret it? She asked suddenly. He turned. Regret what? The life, the walls, the reputation. He regarded her with mild interest. You sound like someone who's writing a story. She froze. Am I? You tell me. He moved closer, each step unhurried. Whatever brought you here, Elena? You should decide what you want from it. Her name on his lips sent a small chill through her. She hadn't told him. How do you know my name? He didn't answer right away. His eyes softened, not with warmth, but with something else. Knowing. I make it a point to know who walks into my world, he said, and who might try to walk out of it. She forced herself to meet his gaze. And if I'm neither, then maybe you're the first. The rain kept falling. Neither moved. For the first time, Elena couldn't tell who was interrogating whom, and for the first time, she wasn't sure she wanted to leave. The office lights glowed low that evening. The storm outside turned the windows silver. Fitz was reading a report, calm as always, while Elena tried to keep her heartbeat quiet. She had planted a listening device an hour earlier, tucked behind a painting when no one was watching. It was the kind of moment she used to live for, the pulse of danger, the victory of truth. But when he looked up from his desk and met her eyes, something inside her twisted. It no longer felt like victory. He said her name softly, as though it wasn't just a name. Elena. She tried to focus on the folder in her hands. Yes, you were in the West Corridor this afternoon, she nodded. I was checking the files on logistics. There are no logistics files in that corridor. Her throat felt dry. Then someone moved them. He stood. Every step he took toward her was deliberate, soundless, measured. He wasn't angry. That was worse. She would have preferred shouting. His calm felt like pressure, invisible but crushing. Do you make a habit of lying to people who pay you? He asked quietly. She met his gaze. Do you make a habit of accusing people without proof? He stopped a few inches from her, too close, yet she didn't move away. He looked at her face for a long time before speaking. Proof is for people who doubt. I don't. The silence stretched between them. She thought about the recorder hidden behind the painting, the faint red light blinking inside the dark. His eyes flicked toward the wall once, not long, not direct, but enough to make her wonder if he already knew. He finally stepped back and said, You don't belong here, Elena, then why haven't you sent me away? He picked up his jacket, slid one arm through, and paused before the door. Because I don't know what you are yet. When he left, she sat in his chair, staring at the half-empty glass of whiskey beside the files. For the first time, she didn't reach for her phone to report back to Marcus. She just sat there, the sound of rain filling the room. The device blinked quietly behind the painting, recording nothing but silence. The days that followed felt heavier. Fitz no longer asked questions, and that worried her more than his suspicion. He was watching her in silence, waiting for something to break. Maybe her, maybe his own restraint. During a meeting one morning, a man named Lucio raised his voice at Fitz over a deal gone wrong. Everyone froze. Elena noticed Fitz didn't even blink. He waited until the man stopped shouting, then said calmly, When a man raises his voice, it's because he's already lost the argument. The room fell into silence. Lucio laughed pale-faced. Fitz turned to Elena and said, Write that down. Might come in handy. She managed a faint smile, but her pulse was unsteady. He always said things that lingered long after he left the room. That evening, she called her editor, Marcus. His voice was sharp. You're late on your report. I'm still gathering details, she said quietly. You're losing perspective, Elena. You're not there to feel sorry for him. I'm not. I just need time. You don't have time. We're going live in 10 days. Get me something we can use, or I'll send someone else. She hung up before answering. Her hands trembled. She wasn't afraid of Fitz. She was afraid of what she was starting to feel when she looked at him. Later that night, she went to his office to return a folder. He was there, sitting in the dark, the glow from the city casting light on his face. She hesitated. You don't sleep much, do you? Sleep is for people who trust the world to stay quiet while they close their eyes, he said. I don't have that luxury. You could, if you tried. He gave her a small smile, one that didn't reach his eyes. You sound like someone who still believes in fixing broken things. Maybe I am. He studied her in silence, then asked, why are you really here, Elena? Her breath caught. The question hung in the air like a blade. She said, because I wanted to understand what kind of man builds a world like this. And what have you understood? That you hate it as much as they do. He looked away, jaw tight. Careful, Elena. Some truths are heavier than lies, but she could see it. The weariness in him. The quiet exhaustion of someone who carried too many ghosts. For the first time, she didn't see the criminal her editor described. She saw a man who no longer knew how to escape himself. The next morning, she found a note on her desk. Fitz didn't wait for her reply. He led her through a back corridor, down a staircase, and out into the old part of the city. They stopped by a small orphanage with cracked windows and fading paint. Children played in the yard, laughing. Fitz stood watching them quietly. You run this? She asked. He nodded once. My mother did, before she died. I keep it open. She looked at him. Why? He didn't answer immediately. Because when you take enough from the world, you owe something back. Elena didn't know what to say. It was the first time she'd seen him outside the walls of his empire, unguarded, almost gentle. She understood then why he was feared. People feared what they didn't understand, and no one understood Fitz DeMico. He looked at her. Does this fit into your investigation? She froze. What? He smiled faintly. You're careful, but not careful enough. You ask too many questions. You pretend too well. I've had you checked, Elena. Her mouth went dry. Then why am I still standing here? Because I wanted to see what you'd do when I told you. She swallowed hard. And he stepped closer. You didn't deny it. That means there's still something honest in you. Her eyes burned. If you knew, why did you keep me near? Because you remind me of who I was before I stopped believing in people. She couldn't speak. The city noise faded around them, leaving only the sound of her pulse. He turned to leave but stopped. You have a choice now. You can finish what you came here to do, or you can find out why I built this world in the first place, she whispered. And if I choose wrong? He met her eyes. Then we both fall. He walked away, leaving her in the soft noise of children's laughter and the slow ache of everything she had come to destroy. And the phone rang like a warning bell. I did not have to look at the screen to know who it would be. Marcus would not call unless he wanted to cut something open and see the business inside. I answered with my hands still wet from rinsing a coffee cup. My voice sounded small. Elena, he said without greeting. You are late with the shipment list. I emailed you the first draft. I said, you are not late with a list. You are late with the story that ends him. Where is it? I am still verifying names, I said. I kept my eyes on the sink. I kept them from him. His patience snapped. You think time is on our side. You think the city will wait while you fall in love with a criminal. We have sources, Elena. We have a ledger and a lawyer who is not sentimental. If you walk away now, you have to know what that means. It means I run it without you. It means I name names and I do not edit to spare your feelings. I felt something cold in my chest. You will ruin people, I said. That is what we do, Marcus said. The line was hard and precise. We ruin the guilty and the guilty have names. You were handed those names. You are the one who looked under the lead. You can run it, I said. You will ruin more than him. You will give his enemies what they need. You will put people in danger, people like his lieutenants. Marcus barked. You are sentimental. You always were. Listen to me. If you do not deliver, I will. The paper will run. There will be calls. Law enforcement will act on what we publish. If you are standing in the way, you will be complicit. He was breathing fast. The sound of his breath reached me through the phone and made my hands tremble. You are blackmailing me. I said. I am calling this accountability, he said. You took a job. You accepted a risk. You promised deliverables. Sirens came like wolves. It was one thing to talk about consequences. It is another thing to hear the doors being forced and the engines turning and the steps on the stair. When the first police lights bloomed outside, every light in Fitz's office went dark. Men moved in practiced silence. Papers were gathered in trash bags and shoved into the fire. Some things burn bright and fast. Not all things can be erased by flame. I stood at the window and watched the blue light bend through the rain. People are noisy when they are frightened. Voices lost their shape in the corridor. Fitz did not look frantic. He looked like a man cataloging loss. He told them everything. Lucio sat at my elbow. His voice was not unkind. It was filled with the blunt arithmetic of survival. An editor leaked. He wanted to be the one to name him. He wanted the byline. "He is ruthless," I said. Lucio blinked. Editors are not saints. I had to do something or I would die. Action always steadied me. I went downstairs and found a television in the lobby and watched the feed. Marcus was at a podium. He had an arrogance you could see like a vein. He held up papers like proof. "Today we publish what we have found," he said. The camera caught his face. It was cruel and triumphant. "This city deserves the truth. We will not be silenced by fear." On the screen I saw familiar addresses. I saw faces blurred out for legal reasons. I saw the ledger with numbers no one should have to read. And then the camera pulled back and there he was. A face I had loved. The face I had tried not to reduce to the ledger. Everything I had feared came at once. Men in uniforms arrived at the perimeter. Voices called names. Phones rang in Fitz's head office and the answers were sharp and hurried. I went back inside because what else could I do? He found me standing in a corridor with rain in my hair. He did not shout. He walked toward me as if approaching a wound. His face was set. He smelled like the night. "You called him," he said. "He will not stop," I said. "He thinks this is his victory." "He had a victory," he said. "In the old world Marcus would have known better than to take this without offering a trade. He is reckless. Take me instead," I said. He stopped. "Are you offering yourself?" "I am offering to stay and take what comes. I will not leave you to carry this alone." He left then, brittle and sharp. "You do not get to offer yourself as if you were a currency." "No," I said. "You do not get to carry this alone either." We stood close to each other, the rain still loud beyond the glass. The men moved like chess pieces around us. I felt every weight of the choices I had made. At 2 in the morning the news cycle did what it does best and began to feed itself. The city turned like a tide. Fitz was taken that night into custody in a way that made it hard to imagine he had any control left. I did not move. I wanted to run after him. I wanted to stop the pale men in suits and tell them a story that would make them see. I wanted to tell Fitz that he meant more than a ledger. I wanted to tell Marcus that he had made a mistake. Instead I wrapped my jacket tighter and climbed into a taxi. The city blurred and bled and I felt like a person with no purchases left. My phone kept ringing. Marcus's number popped up and I let it go to voicemail. When the call finally came back, there was nothing to say except that something had been done. The nights that followed were long. The courthouse moved faster than any villain I had written about. Papers were filed. Statements were taken. Men who had once traded favors whispered behind closed doors. Fitz sat across from a table with lawyers and they tried to parse how much the world would allow him to say and still survive. One morning Lucia found me and took my hand. Her grip was like a rope. "He will make a choice," she said. "He always has the last line." "I did this," I said. The truth tasted like iron. I am the one who gathered the paper. I let Marcus use it. I am the one who could have stopped him. "You did not turn him in," she said. "You stayed." He called me before he walked into the courthouse. I answered, fingers numb. He did not sound like the man who had laughed at risk. He sounded small. You do not have to come, he said. I am coming. I said, you should not, he said gently. There are cameras. There will be men with cameras who want you to break down. They will want to prove whatever they think happened between us. I am coming anyway, I said. I watched him approach the courthouse from a bench across the street. The sight of him in the stark light made my chest ache. This was a place where stories are told and retold and flattened. He walked like someone walking into winter. He gave a statement that day. He said many things with the careful wording that close confinement forces on you. He admitted to some things. He denied others. He took responsibility for actions without naming them in a way that would destroy others. He used his voice to smooth the edges while knives were being sharpened in rooms elsewhere. He protected people with the blunt currency of omission. When the judge set conditions, when the cameras left and the reporters packed up, he walked out past me. For a minute I thought he would come to me and tell me that the story was over and we would be freed of it. Instead, he stopped outside the courthouse, turned, and put a small folded note in my hand. I opened it with fingers that could not stop shaking. The words were 3 and they made everything taste different. Go. Live. Forgive. There was no plea, no demand, no explanation. Just those 3 small sentences. Like a lifeline thrown and released. I folded the note and put it in my pocket. I stayed away for weeks. I went home and I slept and I watched the sea. And I tried to write something that could explain how a person became to different kinds of monster, depending on who told the story. None of my words did. She came with a key and a plan that was as tender as it was blunt. He will not want to live in the lights, she said. He will want to make something else of himself. He asked if you would ever consider moving. He thought you might have a place he could understand. I felt rage first. It was a hot animal in my chest. How dare he assume I would follow him into exile? How dare he assume I owed him anything after all that he had done? Then the rage curdled into something hollow. I missed him. I missed the way his voice fit in my bones. I missed the quiet we shared that had nothing to do with headlines. A month later I found a letter. Not in a calm hand but in the fast stroke of a man who had little time for sentiment. It read like a map to something I did not yet know. I hate this world, he wrote. Look for something else. If you want it, I will be where the sea hits the rocks. If you do not want it, burn this and never think of me again. I kept the letter. I packed a bag. I forgot the taste of coffee for a while. I forgot how to measure distance in miles, and instead measured it in regret and in the way his absence left a shape in a bed. I found him by the sea on a morning that smelled of salt and newness. He was older, not in the way that years make you older, but in the way fatigue writes lines under the eyes and clarifies what once was blurred. He looked up when he heard my steps. He did not stand. He did not run. He only turned. You disappeared. I said I had to, he said. His voice was the same and not the same. It was a voice that could hold a ledger and still hold a name. Everything I was tied to would have destroyed you. Everything we were tied to, I said. The pronouns fit strangely in my mouth. You say it like a sentence. I am saying it like truth, he said. He watched the water. He looked like a man who had been freed from a ledger and then punished for it. We did not speak for a long time. Silence is not empty. It is full of the things we dare not re-enter. The gulls called. A dog barked in the distance. He reached out and his hand found mine. It was a small, certain gesture. What did you find? He asked finally, not looking at me. I thought of the first night, looking for something. The question that started this pair of lives had been simple and ridiculous. Looking for something. I had thought I would find corruption and a clean ending. I had not suspected that I would find a man who looked out of a window and owned a childless house and a charity and an old violin he never played. I had not suspected that walking into someone else's life would leave me so naked and so whole. I was looking for truth, I said. The words felt straight and also silly in the face of what we had endured. And he asked, and I found a way to live, I said. I found a way to be alive even when everything was closing in. He let out a small laugh, and it sounded like the first time I heard him laugh. That is the most dangerous thing yet. I am tired of being dangerous, I said. I am tired of other people deciding what I get to be. He turned to me then, fully. His eyes were wet and steady. Did you find what you were looking for? I looked out over the sea and let the wind take the rest of the sentence. I found him, I said. He smiled. It was a small, private smile that had the shape of a promise. He kissed the top of my head like a benediction. The ocean was loud and forgiving. For the first time since I reached for the archive and found a ledger instead of a life, the beginning and the ending were in the same place. I had gone looking for something, and I had found him. The phrase that had once been a challenge was now a memory of the moment that started everything. It fit in my mouth and did not hurt. We walked down the path together. The world turned. We did not run from the light. We walked into it.